Hello and welcome to Clay to Canopy, the show where I attempt to make just about everything from the ground up. Today I'm going to be taking on the food table. So come on, let's do this. I've gone ahead and cut up some of my wood. I have the tabletop and the legs, and I'm going to be putting this together in a very unconventional woodworking way, more like the contractor's way of building something, where I'm not using fine woodworking to do mortise and tenon joints, that kind of thing, and I'm going to just be using some screws and some brackets to get the thing together. It is a much smaller piece, and it is not something that you're going to be sitting at to eat a dinner at. It is just meant to hold the food as a buffet as people would circle around the table. And also because it is going to be a little out of the norm, it's more sculptural and has these other elements going on, I'm going to ignore the normal woodworking rules that you would apply if I was building, let's say, like a dining table. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This system here looks like it worked really well in the model. I'm going to try and repeat this system. I just have these dowels running through. I will do the same thing but in large scale. I'm just going to pull this apart so you can take a closer look at it. I have my table, which I have decked out to look like a slab of dirt, a patch of dirt. And then I have the fence. To get me going, I'm going to go ahead and paint up the parts first. Alright, I painted up the bottom half of the table with some black paint. And I picked up this stuff. I have not used this brand. The normal brand that I usually use is DAP. I did the model using joint compound, and I did not like the backdrop being white. You can see the joint compound coming through where the cocoa core is, and I just wanted something that was going to mask that out. Something popped up in my YouTube feed. Random Halloween stuff comes up in my feed because I've been posting Halloween videos. Whoever was making the man-eating plant from Suddenly Seymour Little Shop of Horrors plant, he used brown sealant. The worker at Home Depot had no idea what the difference between the two products were, and so far as I could tell, it just looked like a brand difference. Whenever they asked me, they're like, well, what are you using it for? And I'm like, really, if I tried to explain what I'm using this for, I always just say, it's an art project. Anyway, so we're going to try this out and see how it goes. This gun doesn't have this pokey thingy on it. I gotta figure out something to stick in there, break the seal. Put on some gloves. Oh, alright. Like totally scattered at the moment. I have my wood propped up on some buckets with some sand. What I'm going to be doing is pumping this sealant along the edges and smacking on some of this cocoa core. This is just seed starter mix that you can get at Home Depot. You're normally supposed to douse this in some water. I don't want to add any extra moisture, so I'm just going to chip off what I need into a bucket. I use this stuff for scenic models. It's a cheap way to putting in dirt. If you do model making, you can run this through a strainer or, some kind of sieve, and I think you can get a whole brick for like under $4. The model making stuff, I was just looking at some today because I was going to start a vision board. A little tiny bag of earth that is probably about this much worth was like $8 at the craft store. So yeah, I just want to get this medium ready because once I start pumping this sealant out, this is gonna get messy. I just know it's going to. If you've never used any kind of caulking or sealant, there's a little foil seal inside the nozzle and you need to poke at it, and most guns have a little piece of what looks like a nail attached to the gun. I have no idea why this one's missing one. Probably fell off at some point. So this has an open working window once you pump it out. I don't want to go pumping the entire edge all over the whole thing because if I don't get to it, I don't want this stuff to seize on me. I think this one's 7 minutes? 4 minutes. This one's 4 minutes. The DAP brand was 7 minutes. It was a little bit more of an open work time. So this says 7 to 14 day cure time on the package, but it is going to take some time to dry even though there is only a 4 minute open window work time. I am doing this at the end of my work day. I know that I'm going to be working over the next couple days, and this is going to sit out here and dry before I do anything else. It is leg time. I'm now looking at the underside of this table. It's had some time to set up and dry, and now I'm going to be attaching the legs. For the legs, I am breaking all the woodworking rules. I am just going to be popping on brackets without an apron, but because the size of this table is so small, and because it's not meant for a long-term everyday use, I'm going to be fine getting by with this kind of a connection. My legs got a bit of a wobble, even with the brackets, so I'm going to go ahead and sink a screw through all of them from the top. I think I'm only going to be able to do one. I don't want to risk splitting this, so I'm just going to stick with one screw. I want this table to be able to come apart if I need to store it later on. Alright, well that got me pretty stable. I'm okay with that. I'm going to test this out. And then I also need to let this mat breathe a bit because it came to me folded. Oh, feels so nice. This would be against the grain or against the stroking of the kitty. You know, pet the kitty when you're testing for the direction of your grain. I got 4 sizes of dowel because I have 4 different heights in here and I purchased 4 different thicknesses. I'm going to go with 18, 16, 14, and 12 in length. And I need 6 of the tallest one, and then I should probably make a list of how many I need of the other ones. Alright, I'm just going to map these out. I'm going to go chop away, and I'm going to just keep the very simple thing I got going on here where I buzzed it to a tip on the sander because it was just a very quick way to get this effect going on. And if it ain't broke, might as well keep it, right? All of my little, I guess I'll call them stakes, my pieces for the fence are sanded down to a tip. Now I'm going to cut up the piece to become the guard that's going to house these. I decided that I want to drill holes in this 1x2 and sink these in here. I gotta tell you though, since the pandemic, the quality of this lumber is crap. Okay, it's like really, really bad. And I know that I buy furring strips to save money, but to used to be able to go through and pick through some somewhat decent pieces. These pieces are like really wonky, have rough edges. It's like buying the pieces that you throw away. And then on top of that, the price has more than doubled. It used to cost me $1.19 for a 1x2 furring strip. This was almost $4. Now I could run this through my joiner, my planer. You probably can see, look at how wonky it looks, like a hockey stick. And this was a good one. I'm not gonna run this through the joiner or planer because I don't want to lose any more thickness than I already have. I could go through the process of sanding this. I'm not gonna because I don't feel like it. So my next move is to cut these down, and then I'm going to be drilling some holes. So I'm just going to map out where these are going to land so that I have a point of reference before I begin drilling. I'm going to put a piece of blue tape next to my marks so that I know what I am drilling, because I don't want to start drilling and end up with the wrong size hole. I'm going to start with the largest one first, move on to the next. If you are new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. This size is proper, however, it's a really tight fit. There needs to be some slack when you go to put the glue in. I'm going to be sanding up a little bit of these ends before I sink them in. I don't want to go making them larger. It would just be much easier to just go ahead and do a bit of sanding on this end and get a nice fit so that I can pop some glue in. So I'm getting ready to glue in strips just to draw all of this together. This is just a decorative element and also to try and keep these in line, so I don't need to have anything too major as far as the glue ups go. So I will just use super glue and yellow glue and some clamps. But I do need to measure so that they all end up in the same spot. What shall I do? 5. Always been my lucky number. It took me a couple days to get this thing fully painted properly. It is a chilly day here, but it is time to finish up this table. Whenever I am not here in the studio and I am working or doing other things, I'm usually processing how things are going to go together. I think I'm going to partially assemble some of this fencing. We assemble an L, 2 different L's, and then set it on the floor around the table, finish screwing it together, and then I'll deal with the rigging part. To assemble these, I am just going to throw in some drywall screws because that's what I have. For some extra support, I cut a couple of pieces of wood that I'm just going to sink in here. This is just solely to keep the gate square. It won't even be seen. It's going to be under the table. Gate, fence, this thing, whatever this is. Just kind of messing around with the height of this thing, where I want this to land. I don't think I have a choice. I think I have to go even a little lower because I put in those brackets, and though I can hide some of the brackets, my plan here is to drive a dowel directly in here and let the dowel act as a pin and let that hold the weight of this. I didn't quite work out this part in my head. This was a when I get there I'll figure it out kind of deal. And now I'm here and now I need to figure it out. That's option 1. Option 2 is I put in these rails and I can use those rails as something. Or I can not overcomplicate this and just freaking run the dowel through this way so it also supports on that and the edge and call it a damn day. I think that's what we're gonna do. I have a 7/16 inch dowel that I cut some lengths out of, and this is I think a 3/4 inch dowel. It's either 3/4 or 5/8. But I am going to cut little slices of this to glue this to, and it'll just act as a post that will stop itself from going inside the wood. I'm going to pre-drill this first before I cut the slice. I just spent some time drilling the top parts on all 4 sides for these pins to sit through, and that's for when this fence is in the upright position. So now I'm going to go ahead and drill for the bottom position for when the fence comes down. So I'm going to take a measurement. I'm actually going to measure from the bottom. I do not want to fill my holes for the screw holes in case I need to take this apart, and it's going to just be much easier to store. It's the same reason why I did not really attach the legs to the top. It's all bracketed in so that everything can get packaged up and stored away, or it can be completely remade into something else, which is sometimes as we do as artists, right? We recycle materials. Measure. Yeah, I'm terrible with these kinds of things. You'd think being a woodworker I'd be a little bit more, what do you know? 13 inches. Gee, surprise. Surprise, surprise. All right, let's bump this up. Anyway, you'd think as a woodworker, I'd be a little bit more attentive to measuring. I do measure. I do measuring, but sometimes, you know, when I'm making artwork or something that is more sculptural, I like to just let myself go and not have all of those rules. Too many rules sometimes. All right, y'all, here she is in the lowered position. I'm gonna go ahead and raise up the gate, which would be the like pre-party, before the eating begins kind of mode. So let's go ahead and raise her up here. Pins are a little bit stiff because that paint is still sort of wet. But, as usual, running out of time. And there you have it, my garden feast table. I'm gonna leave it here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already. And come back real soon to watch the rest of this environment come together.